side, how are you going to ensure that these 28 members of parliament who are now thinking about how to service their loans and attend to other personal businesses will show up in parliament and work?
Well, we can all continue to hope that they'll respond to the whip. And that's what we can say for now. Some believe that they work hard enough for the party to win generally. There's a lot more advantage in it, and that's what I recommend to everybody. If your party wins the general election, there's more advantage and more opportunity for you than if your party loses. And if you're motivated more by anger and pain and bitterness, then you facilitate your party losing, and then you are the bigger loser.
Speaking of anger and pain, is that what happened in Bekwai? Because some of us
vote for choice, so it shouldn't be a problem. We are politicians. In the run-up to the end of the competition, people fight, throw in everything they can. But once it is done, it is settled, slows down. So, yes, you may be hearing people lobbying left, right, and center, but it is part of the competition. For me, there's no reason to fear that there should be a problem if one or the other is selected to be the running mate. That's it.
And you say it must come from the region?
I think it is the most objective choice to make. The most objective choice to make at this time. And so, you know, whether I like it or not, the party is built on some pillars. And at this point, if you're being objective, the next pillar to promote will be from the region.
Some are saying time is running out. We have barely 10 months. The Vice President, of course, the flag bearer, is speaking tomorrow to tell us about his vision, his policies, and what have you. But with the running mate, John Mahama has had Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman speaking on his behalf. Yesterday there was a program, and many people are saying that that choice is made already. Your candidate doesn't have a running mate. Barely 10 months.
So John Mahama has a running mate, does he?
Many are saying so.
He was elected much earlier. And he doesn't have a running mate, so time is not running out for anybody. In any case, the election is about the presidential candidate. A running mate is a running mate just to come to support him. The focus should be on him. He will select somebody to assist him. I'm confident that in these matters, people look more at not just what the running mate brings, but the running mate who does not have a baggage. You do not want to be spending time to be defending, you know. And I think he has a plethora of eligible people to select from. Indeed, if you ask me, probably the reason is late is that there are way too many of them to choose from. So, yes, but I'm sure he's sure what he wants, and I'm sure you make no mistake. It's important that he listens to everybody who has something to say, and the rest of us are just applauding, waiting. Once he delivers his speech, we will carry it along and make sure that the people hear. Elections is about giving people hope, giving them confidence that these new things will bring change, right? The things I have to say are often not palatable for elections. You know, they're not. But I think these are the critical things we must be talking about outside the election period. We can't continue to leave things the way they are. Young people must accept responsibility for their lives. You should stop thinking about some magic wand being carried by it, But it takes time to get people to think that way, get shuttled into. As I was saying, when I was in secondary school, I thought that I have a right. I never thought about who pays for the cost of suppressing the right, but that should be the things.
Honorable Joseph Osei-Usu, Member of Parliament for Bekwai, First Deputy Speaker. The ninth Parliament, of course, will not be so lucky to have him. He's bowed out. And so that's been an engagement, an insightful engagement with Honorable Joseph Osei-Usu, Member of Parliament, Bekwai, First Deputy Speaker.
I'm surprised at the way people responded to it. Did people approve that without paying attention to that? You know that if you have observed, I've often raised the issue of the numbers indicated as present as against the numbers that I see in the chamber. I think that the current arrangement makes it possible for people to just sign and go back to their office or do some other private business. So you see the numbers and you're confused. How is it that we have over 200 of us present, and yet at a point we had to prematurely bring proceedings to a close or couldn't take a decision, So my thinking is in line with what the Honorable Muntaka said. If you're not in the chamber, you will openly be identified as not being in the chamber. If you come in late, you openly be identified as, well, even though he came at the time of the beginning of proceedings, he was not in the chamber. I think, like he said, accountability. Our responsibility is to make sure that when at the time it should be, if I had my own way, it should be every day. A lot of the things other people have gotten their nationals to do is by conscientization, to constantly remind you of the things and the pledges too. This morning I raised the issue of the kind of preparation, orientation we give citizens. Currently none. Indeed, in my days when I was going to school, I was citing the national anthem, national pledge. So somehow, the regular singing, put your mind on something. I've seen countries where it is a regular feature of every pupil from nursery. As soon as the teacher enters the classroom, the first thing the teacher asks, if it's not yours, don't take it. If it's not yours, the students will respond, don't take it. It's preparing your mind against taking what is not yours, whether it is private property or public property. And those things, like joke, it becomes your conscience guide. Every time there's a temptation to do something, it reminds you. If it's not yours, don't take it. I've often cited what my children, now they are all adults, now, when they told me many years ago, I used to have a taxi driver who would take them to school and bring them to school. One morning, afternoon, they came and said, when we're coming from school, the taxi driver was driving through red light. So I said, so what did you do? We started singing. When you see the traffic light, there is something you must know. Whoever taught them that has prepared their minds against doing the wrong thing in the traffic. And that constant reminder, it will become a culture, a part of them. Often today, if I have to check whether April is 30 days or January is 31 days, I go back to recite those words. So for me, they are a critical way of preparing your mind to be the good person or the values in those recitations. It's not just recitations, there are values in them which I think it is so critical we let it be part of our mindset every day. Well, it begins with our motherland. Is that also biased against men? There are certain things that have become practically representative. And indeed, even in the Constitution, there are many phrases where they use he. And the interpretation is that he refers to the she. It's gender neutral. So we should not generate controversy about these things. These things have been around for over 50 years, national anthem. And probably at that time we were not that gender conscious. But truly, were we going to say he or she or mother or father? No, we would have to use one of them and interpret one to mean the other. So there's no meaning. Well, it's to differentiate between the committee that is reviewing agreements. Finance committee largely reviews agreements to make sure that, one, they are legally or complying with the constitution, and that the specific benefits intended and the terms are favorable. That's one. But then the economic committee will be looking at policy generally. And so we try to differentiate between reviewing terms of finance agreements and so on versus reviewing policy generally and advising the House on policy direction. For me, this is one of the very good things we can do to ourselves, because a lot of the time there's no difference between the things we are saying, but we forced to make them different just for the sake of argument. Somebody says just for the shigeris. Create differences when there's none. Make politics just like a sport. It's no longer attractive for people who are serious, I must confess.
Is that how you're living?
Where I'm living is that, well, let's talk about where I'm living later, but generally, communication, which has become a central part of our politics now, is like just competitive sports. The same agenda. But we will take the same matters, discuss them, turn them around as if there's difference between us. But look at us consistently. Every policy is supposed to apply to the same set of people. Are we getting different results? So is a problem with the policies or with the human beings implementing them? And for me, that is a critical part. We turn around policies and plan and turn, including revolutions, but the result is not it's not different. The problem is with the people. I wonder why we are afraid to admit the weaknesses in our orientation. November, I led a discussion at the Pan-African Parliament on why democracy appears to be failing us in Africa. And I raised its critical issue that, in my view, democracy is a copied thing. I compare the countries from whom we copied democracy. They built their democracy on a certain culture. Openness, integrity, inclusiveness, and they are willing to accommodate all kinds of new things which will make their democracy work for everyone. We don't appear to have developed those ethics, those values, and we don't appear to be making any effort to make the everyday people understand the ethics and values that will make democracy work. And so, left and right, we appear to think that because I elected you, you should be able to provide everything. That's all. You make rules, I won't respect them. If you enforce them, I won't vote for you. I'll vote against you. And yet we expect results. We find all kinds of means to avoid paying taxes. And yet we want the roads to be built. We complain when we borrow, when we don't contribute to pay for the things that we offer. And we make every situation appear as if leaders, the rest of us have nothing to do. We have no role to play. We have no responsibility. We have elected you, so find the means to do it, even when democracy has room for their own roles. Okay? Indiscipline has grown so high because we are afraid that The laws these elected people have made, if we implement them, they'll vote against us. So while one is insisting that we should respect them, the other say, oh, if I get the opportunity, I'll let you break the rules. So, frankly, where are we going with all these? So that's why I think that policy discussed at that level will generate some loyalty to the things that currently or often we tend to make policies appear to be only by and for the party in power. That if you have a committee that discusses this, I believe strongly that we will get towards. For me, one of the weakest or the weaknesses, yes, the weaknesses in our politics and our national governance structure is the total disengagement of the political leadership. There's no point where we converge and think and take decisions that are national and stand together to make sure it happens. Talking about because of elections, not doing the things that we ought to do. A very senior friend of mine, very excellent physician, said, well, probably I shouldn't, you know politics more than me, but why are you doing this to yourself in election year? I said, well, it's a balance between building your economy or winning an election. Anytime you insist on doing the right things, you may lose an election. I recall my days at DVLA. There's things that I think were incompatible with the corporate head office. So they should move, these people should move from here. My colleagues come and say, Joe, what are you doing? They will lose elections. I say, so what? If we do the right thing, we leave a good legacy. I say, if you do the right thing and lose the election, what have you gained? So that has become our bane, unfortunately. Some people say the same thing abroad, but no. The national politics of United States, United Kingdom, Australia, have nothing to do with the local governance. They have very strong local governance people. They will introduce the levy, you will pay. They will clean the city, they will manage their own systems. So the national politics is about national policy, national budget and things. Unfortunately here, everything is from the center. Local government is practically non-existent. They don't have money to do anything on their own. They can't generate enough revenue to even clean the environment. And all because we are afraid to ask people to pay. We, the same people who complain about every single tax, will go elsewhere and take what they pay for and come and compare with what we don't pay for. I recently was part of a conference in Tampa, and I took my hotel bill and I saw the taxes. General tax, state tax, local council tax. They are all part of the hotel bill I paid. Break it down, right? Unfortunately, the people who complain, they pay those things freely, and they won't complain when those things are. So, we don't appear to accept that we have responsibilities. We only expect rights.
So in this case, where do we go? Like you mentioned, there's an election to be won, there's an aid to be broken, there's a levy to be taken, there's an economy to be built. What will a Joe Wise do?
Why? I have never been president. I've never had to be put to that choice. Probably. Left to the finance minister alone, I have to restore sanity. I have to restore stability and so on. So these are the revenue measures we have taken. Like you said, the committee, I don't remember that we had division on that matter. It was passed by consensus. But now people want to take advantage of the everyday Ghanaians' unwillingness to pay tax rather than standing together. Because if you want to win the election, you would need that money. So rather than standing together and defending it, now everybody is running away from responsibility. So say the finance minister.
Everybody wants him hanged.
Well, I don't know whether I want him hanged for this particular one.
For the past sins as well.
Sins? I'm not aware that he has committed any sins. But generally, there are very few popular finance ministers. As soon as the budget is presented, people are looking for only the taxes. What people don't look at is the balance. Even if you collect all the taxes, how much revenue are you going to get versus all the things you want, which are contained in the budget? At the same time, you are complaining about budget. The same people are asking that my community road has to be fixed. Mind this and mind that. As if we just pluck money from the trees. No, we have to pay the taxes for the things to be done. That orientation is lacking. I've cited once my mother. I was a constituency chairman then. I was practicing law in Kumasi, so I drove to Bekwai and I walked to my mother's shop. Hey, Kojo, me buofu mukufono. To wait, I'm angry with your kufo. Why? What has kufo done? Me, a widow, and they asked me to pay tax. So, until let me look at how much. This is all the money they're asking you to pay. But I remember you always comparing yourself with government employed people and saying that you earn more than them. And this amount you're being asked to pay for a whole year, the teachers you compare yourself with pay more than this a month. And he said, hey, sir. Okay. And I said, government has not done any work for me. Has not given me any work. So, but this shop you're sitting in, you pay rent. Only if how much was it built for? But I could discuss that with her because she's my mother. If it was anybody else, I'll have to be pretending that, unfortunately, but it is because nobody has taken her time to explain to her role as a citizen. All we know is talk about our rights, our privileges that we can ask for from government. We don't put effort into explaining to people that everything you ask government to do for you comes with a cost. And that cost must be borne by you, the citizens. I recall when I was in secondary school Form 4, started doing government. My cousin who was a retired soldier gave me some book, rights and education is a right. I'm talking about that. I'm feeling confident. Yes, it is a right. But somebody must pay the teacher. Somebody must pay for the other people serving you. Who should bear that cost? We never discuss those things when we're discussing rights.
The counter argument is that some people pay taxes, of course. What uses are we putting those taxes to? And are they tangibles for people to see, to be inspired in paying more?
Okay, so we can take our time and look at. That's why I'm talking, when we're talking about the budget, we only discuss the taxes. So what we should look at is all those taxes together. How much does it come to? All the cost of education, how much does it come to? I'm not talking about even the infrastructure, the teachers, the educational workers. How much does it come to? So if we put all the taxes together, how much of all the taxes we pay together go to that? And then compare with you, that individual. You have 2, 3 children in school. If they were computing the cost for you to pay, the tax you pay, how much of that would that cover? Then you come to the roads you're driving on. Then you come to the hospitals you're in. You come to all the other facilities that government provides. Okay? So I think the media should also refocus on getting us to discuss it. For me, a lot of the failures is because people don't even appreciate their own responsibilities. The media has not helped in that respect, because all we talk about is government has not done this, government must do that, government. We don't discuss the revenue, right? And what is worse is actually people expecting politicians, or as we call them, leaders, to do for them the things they can and must do for themselves. The culture is changing. When I started dreaming of becoming a member of parliament, I was in, I was in about class 3 or class 2, 7 years old, and I saw newspapers, I saw the MPs, I watched them TV, I listened to radio, I heard the argument. Ooh, I dreamed that I'll become an MP. That was way back in 1969, and then I observed 79 going. There were things that were attractive to me. How they make arguments, how they have patience to listen to one another, have exchange. And then I became a DVLA chief executive. I sat at committees, how they negotiated. That was nation building. Because when we're talking about nation, no one individual can achieve any big thing. But over the years, our focus is shifting to individuals, grandiose, showing off more about being verbose, and we're becoming less or more and more intolerable. A thing that had never happened. And Mr. Speaker put it in another way. There are too many young men. I'll put it this way. That people who think and behave like me are expiring. I had a meeting here with Dr. Prempe, Dr. Chambers, and I brought this matter up that it does appear to me that we have overlooked something. We don't have any gatekeeper system, so anybody can enter. And the parties have not created orientational system by which you prepare people before they come to parliament. And indeed, the worst part is that for the parties, as long as they are convinced you can win the seat for them, it doesn't matter what you do or how you get it. They cannot be bothered. What I saw in other jurisdictions, particularly I can speak about the Westminster system, because I led the delegation of MPs from both sides. And what I saw, each MP is moving with about 3-4 different volunteers. And I asked, why are they volunteering? I said, if you want to be an MP, work in the party, you must work as a volunteer for a member of parliament or a senior party official. That is how you get your orientation of the party's ideology, the discipline, the ethics. And it is in the course of that the leadership of the party will recommend you. Say in England, it is the chairman that prepared the list of people who are eligible to be to contest on the party's ticket. So they evaluate you through your voluntary work, and then the chairman recommends you by putting you on the list. One MP said his happiest day in his life was the day his name appeared on the chairman's list. It means that you have passed the test. We don't have any such thing here.
So we're experiencing deterioration because from what you said, you observed from afar and it looked pleasant. The arguments were solid. The debates beautiful. We're experiencing deterioration now.
Yes, that's what I mean by what Mr. Speaker said, that too many young men are entering Parliament. But I said the other way. People like me have expired. People who believe in quality, decency, decent choice of words and discussions, tolerance, we appear to have expired.
That's a danger.
From the expired people's point of view. But the young people probably see it differently. I really think that the danger is very glaring, that we should all of us who are interested in democracy, who are interested in the current governance system, should be alarmed.
Let's talk about 28 of your own colleagues. You were here with them to meet the delegates. They've lost their slots. They are not returning to the ninth parliament. How alarming is that? 28, including ministers of state.
Well, it's a reflection of the times. If you're an MP, you're held responsible for the failures of local government. You're held responsible for the failures of central government. And you're expected to perform magic with nothing in your hands. So, if the roads fail, the MP is blamed. If teachers don't perform and the school children don't pass, the MP is blamed, the president is blamed. If doctors even have a situation where people said too many people are dying in a particular hospital and the MP is the one they call. The different scenarios play out. But in the end, you cannot discount the monetization. In the end, we cannot discount that. It's a pity. The other side of it is also that it's not the delegates who ask you to give me money. It is you who are competing, who are also competing to outdo one another. So, how deep your pocket is will also determine whether you return to Parliament or not.
If you don't pay, you lose, obviously, so you have to pay.
That's the point. It's not just paying, how much you pay. It's how deep your pocket is will determine. I do not discount giving money in all circumstances. I gave an example that I live at Bekwai. I voted at Bekwai. But I didn't walk from my house to the polling booth. From my house to the polling booth was about 3 kilometers. I went by vehicle. So people who are traveling from long distances have to be provided for. But how big, it depends on how deep your pocket is. And that has become a determining factor.
There's a counter-argument that there was an onslaught on certain MPs from the system. So CEOs of state-owned enterprises, individuals from the presidency, and what have you. How do you match up to such caliber of people?
Did all of them win?
Not all of them.
That's right. So it's a competition. It's a pity that how deep your pocket is has become a lot more influential these days. Otherwise, the situation would have probably been the same all year round, but that has not been the same all year round. People from the government seat, people from CEOs and things have always competed. I competed in 2008 from DVLA chief executive, So it's not new. It's always been the case. Everybody who has political interest gauges his strength at what time he thinks he can get in. But what really matters is how much appeal you bring. Except that today's appeal is probably a lot more influenced by how deep your pocket is than any other factor. And for sitting MPs, they are disadvantaged because as soon as you become an MP, you will pay till the next election period. Whereas for the other person who is coming in, he may have saved and deep in his pocket all the more. So if you're a sitting MP, you're disadvantaged. And Parliament is the poor place. I recall, Mr. Speaker, when I joined Parliament in 2009, he was majority leader. And then within 6 months, he was nominated as minister. So I said, hey, you're abandoning the poor people's arena. We laughed about it. But, he explained that his people want to see also that he is also in the executive. But in the end, here, it's a poor people's den. Because you spend all the money. You are the community ATM. You are the financier for all party activities. You are social, the bedding, the social bed. You carry all the social beddings of the community. So you can't save anything. Your emoluments is for the whole community. And so you are distressed from the beginning till the time. Many of my colleagues who lost actually took loans to contest, and they have lost.
There's a problem.
They've mortgaged their future income. Many of our colleagues. This happens every election year.
How do they come out of this? Because you've lost, you're not returning to the Parliament, you have a loan to service.
Come out of it. Many have been chased by banks and courts and so on, and many. And it's a common knowledge that within 1 year, 2 years, our colleagues are broke, they can't even pay hospital bills. That's why Parliament has made it a condition to support former members of Parliament and their wives and young children, because the evidence staring us in the face is pathetic.
In the next few months,